Hello colleagues, and welcome to today's webinar regarding the submission of teacher-assessed grades, or tags. My name is David Kiernan, and I work in the provider development team at NCFE. With 1 week remaining until the submission of teacher-assessed grades, we thought it would be useful to remind you of the key requirements for tags and the post-submission process. The plan for this webinar is to let you know what's required before you can submit grades via the portal, a review of tag evidence and how UMS calculations will be done, how to submit tags for different qualifications on the portal, and finally, the EQA reviews, results release, and claiming certificates. So let's begin with what we require from your centre before you can submit any tags. Before any tags can be submitted, you need to complete the online tag strategy form and submit it to us. The original deadline for this form was the 7th of May, so it's very important to complete it as soon as possible if you intend to submit tags. Once submitted, it will be reviewed by a panel of lead external quality assurers, or EQAs. By knowing your intentions, we will be better placed to support centres. We're also asking centres who don't intend to submit tags to contact us as soon as possible on tagstrategy@ncfe.org.uk to confirm that you aren't planning to submit tags. The other requirement is to book any relevant external assessments that will have tags submitted. If the external assessment has been cancelled, then a representative booking is required before you can submit the tags. You may find that there are 2 booking options available for the same external assessment. This can happen if there were 2 cancelled opportunities to sit the external assessment. You only need to book learners onto one of those assessment windows. We will now look at the evidence requirements and how any UMS calculations, if applicable, will work. First though, there are different qualification categories that I'll be referring to during this webinar. Category A qualifications are the easiest to address, as those qualifications can't have tags submitted and must be completed as standard. Category B1 qualifications can have tags submitted. They are qualifications that are similar to GCSE and A levels. Some of these qualifications will be graded, such as pass, merit, and distinction, while others are non-graded and are either achieved or not. The final category is B2 qualifications, and they are unlike GCSE and A levels, such as functional skills, skills for life qualifications, etc. These qualifications should continue and be assessed as normal, and tags should only be submitted as a last resort. In some cases, like functional skills, there is a set of eligibility that needs to be satisfied and an application to be completed before any tags can be submitted. You can find this information on the subject-specific functional skills page on our COVID Hub. For qualifications that are eligible for tags, those grades will need to be submitted to us on an assessment level rather than a qualification level. For example, if a qualification consisted of an internal assessment and an external assessment, then you would need 2 tags, one for each assessment and not just one grade for the overall qualification. There will need to be evidence for each of the learning outcomes or assessment criteria, and in some cases, you may be able to map some of the learner's evidence from other units and/or learning outcomes. Learners may already have suitable evidence for the assessments from homeworks or classworks that they managed to complete. You could use past exam papers or even devise your own assessment by combining multiple learning outcomes together to address the gaps in the learner evidence. We've tried to keep the types and range of tag evidence that can be used as open as possible, as we don't want to restrict centres or disadvantage learners. It would be beneficial to keep records, spreadsheets, etc., of which units or learning outcomes have been generated from alternative forms of evidence or tag evidence. This will make it easier to identify which assessments are to be submitted as tags and which are not, as well as supporting the external quality assurance review. Any work should undergo an internal quality assurance process. This is very important, as when it comes to the external quality assurance review, they'll want to see records of internal quality assurance having taken place. Now, the T-level qualification in education and childcare is slightly different, and tags should only be used for those students who are ready to progress to the next stage of the T-level. The core assessments consists of 2 exam papers and the employer set project. But you would only submit 2 tags for this and not 3 tags. So even though there are 2 exams, you would only submit 1 tag to cover them both. The second tag would be for the employer set project. Tags would be based on the areas of the content that centres have been able to deliver, rather than having tag evidence for all the learning outcomes or assessment criteria. To aid with this, we have produced topic tests and an additional sample employer set project, which can be used to generate tag evidence. But you can also use the previous examples I mentioned too, such as homework, classwork, mock exams, etc. Centres should also use the provided grade descriptors and accompanying performance indicators to support the judgment of a student's work and to draw a conclusion regarding the best fit against a grade. Please do seek support from your account exec and/or the provider development team if needed. For qualifications with assessments that have a range of UMS available, we'll be using the midpoint value for the tag submitted. It might be easiest to demonstrate this with an example, and I'll be using the level 1/2 technical award in health and fitness. This qualification consists of 2 assessments, an external assessment and an internal assessment called the synoptic project. I've taken these UMS tables directly from the specification. Let's say a level 2 merit tag is going to be submitted for the external assessment. In a usual year, the UMS would range from 115 to 137. The more raw marks that the learner gets in the exam, then the more UMS points they'd get. Since the external assessment has been cancelled, the UMS will be the midpoint value for the grade submitted. While the UMS grade boundaries don't change, the number of raw marks for a particular grade can change from one assessment window to the next. So if you're using past external assessment papers to assess your learners, then you can find the corresponding grade boundaries in the Chief Examiner's Report. So if it's an exam paper from November 2020, then the grade boundaries will be in the November 2020 Chief Examiner's Report. So for the external assessment of a level 2 merit tag, we would choose the middle value, which would be 126. The middle value between 115 and 137. That would be the UMS for that external assessment grade. There is also the internal assessment grade, but since these have a set value, we don't need to worry about any midpoint values. This gives us a total of 263 UMS, which means their final grade would be a level 2 pass, since 263 falls within the level 2 pass range of 246 to 303. We're now going to look at submitting the grades on the portal and the relevant deadlines. As a reminder, before submitting any tags, we need to have received and approved your tag strategy form and, if applicable, your functional skills application. You should also have made bookings for external assessment tags if that's applicable to your centre and qualification. The deadline for submitting tags is Friday, the 18th of June, 2021. This date is to guarantee you have results certificates for results day. Do ensure that the tags submitted are the final grades and that internal quality assurance has taken place. Remember, this section is for submitting tags on the portal, and the deadline of the 18th of June is to ensure sufficient time to have those grades ready for results release day. For any category B1 qualifications that won't be needing tags, then the deadline for grades is the 27th of July. The exception to this is for the VCERT qualifications. The grades for the Synoptic project for the level 1/2 technical awards needs to be submitted by the 18th of June, whether the grade submitted is a tag grade or not. To aid with using the portal for tags, we've produced a support guide to help centres. We've also produced summary infographics for submitting tags for graded, ungraded, and functional skills qualifications, as well as having a dedicated page for submitting tags. We're going to look at how submitting tags will work. So before submitting any tags on the portal, you need to have submitted your tag strategy form and had it approved. For qualifications that aren't graded, so are either achieved or not achieved, you would use the certification section in the portal and go to Make a Claim. Let's look at how this works, and I'm going to use the example of the Level 3 Diploma in Counselling Skills. So here I've logged into the portal and I'm going to go to Certification here and Make a Claim. Now there's probably a few ways you could search for this, like product code, product name, and so on. but probably more used to working in terms of the batch numbers. So I've got my batch number already in here. So I'm going to search for this level 3 diploma in counseling skills. That's the relevant batch. And we can see I've got 2 learners on here. I'm just going to do this with 1 learner right now. So I'm selecting this one and I go to submit. Now remember, you may have more than 1 learner that you selected. You might have a lot, so you could select all learners or just select individual ones. I'm going to go to mark the units in this qualification. And this is the screen we'll see. So I'm going to select all units. And when I do that, it will automatically put it in as a for achieved. Now, some of these units may have been via tags. So I would just tick whichever units it is that happen to be generated via tag evidence. I can now go and save units, and you will get this little warning screen just asking you that you're going to be submitting units and components that are available for tags, teacher assessed grades. Make sure you're happy with your selection. So you can click no, and it will just bring you back to this page. You can do a little double check, see if you've ticked the correct boxes. And I know I have, so I'm safe to proceed. And that's those units marked. So just need to do the final submission. Now remember, I have said that internal quality assurance, it is so important that that has been carried out. It is something that your external quality assurer will be checking for as well. So here's where you'd put in the internal quality assurer's name, little declaration tick on here, and you would be able to submit. So I'll just put in my name on here, just click tick on this and submit. And we can finish that off. That is submitted then for this non-graded qual in terms of submitting tags. Remember, this is only for submitting tags. If it's not a teacher assessed grade, you don't need to follow this procedure. There are the different deadlines, as I mentioned earlier. If you're submitting grades as standard or business as usual. For qualifications that are graded, such as pass, merit, and distinction, you would use the Submit Grade section of the portal. I'm going to walk you through that now using the example that I mentioned earlier for the UMS calculations, the Level 1/2 Technical Award in Health and Fitness. So here I am on the portal again, just on the home page. And this time I'm going to go to Submit Grades. And again, we can just search for batch number. And here I have my learner testy test for the Level 1/2 Technical Award in Health and Fitness. Now, this qualification does have 2 assessments that need grade submitted. We have the Synoptic Project, which is an internal assessment, and we also have the exam, the external assessment. So on here, this first bit we can see here is for the Synoptic Project. And I will choose what grade the learner gets. Let's say a level 2 pass. Now again, I do have to make sure that this work has had an internal quality assurance, and I'll put in the internal quality assurer's name. We will notice here at the end of this table, if I manage to complete the Synoptic Project as standard, business as usual approach, then that's fine. I can just fill in these details and click submit. If I needed to use any tag evidence, so maybe some classwork, maybe some similar mock exam questions, whatever it might be, then I would have to indicate that by ticking tag. Now, if a teacher assessed grade is also needed for the external assessment, you can see here, I won't be able to do this right now. The reason I can't do this is because there is no active booking for the assessments. So remember, you do need to make that booking for the external assessment if you need to submit an external assessment tag. So those bookings are required. And just like with internal assessments, if you're using some tag evidence for the generation of that grade, that should have undergone internal quality assurance as well. So internal quality assurance for the internal assessment tags, but also any external assessment tags as well. Since this learner doesn't have a booking, I can click here. So that will take you to the booking page where you will be able to choose that window, the summer 2021 awarding, and fill in the details as you would do normally. When that is completed, you will then be able to submit those grades. So I'm not going to do that booking just now. I will just show you when we go on to the submit grades. Let's say it is a level 2 pass, and it is a tag. Again, we have to make that little declaration, and whoever the internal quality assurer happened to be. And submission successful. If learners already do have a banked external assessment grade, then you don't need to submit an external assessment tag unless they would have been entitled to a resit and they may have achieved a higher grade, or you've got evidence that tag evidence that the grade they would achieve is a higher grade than the one they have in their banked external assessment. The final one I'm going to show you is for functional skills. Remember, functional skills is a B2 category qualification. So tags should only be submitted as a last resort, and if your centre has met the eligibility criteria and completed the relevant application form. Remember, this can be found on the functional skills qualification section of our COVID hub. For tags as well, you need to have made the relevant assessment booking, and then you can use certification and make a claim. So let's look at this one now. So here we are on the portal screen, and go to certification and make a claim. So again, I've got my batch number, and when I search for this particular batch for functional skills, you can see I have these learners here. Both are registered. I'm just going to choose one of them again rather than both, just to show you how this would work. Now, again, internal quality assurance we have on here. And I'm going to select this learner, go to Mark Components. Now you can see at the minute I can fill in the speaking, listening, and communication. I can indicate whether that is tag or not, but I can't do the reading or writing elements. And again, this is to emphasize that we need those bookings. So some learners don't have an active booking for the assessments that I'm submitting teacher assessed grades for. So I'll need to make those bookings. So here we have these two assessments. And let's say they both have to be via tags. So my level 2. And so on. Fill this in as you would do normally and make those booking entries. So when I fill in the booking details, I will be able to book those entries. So entries for assessment are complete. Select my learners, mark those components, and now I can select all of these. These are already ticked as being tags because that's what I've indicated on the system. And again, if it wasn't a pass, there's the fail option, of course, as well, because it is just pass fail for these. Save components, and just fill in internal quality assured name, tick in these, and so on. Submit, and claim certificates. So again, this is for tag submissions, the system we would use. Once tags have been submitted, an external quality assurance or EQA review will need to take place. If you haven't done so already, you should contact your EQA now to make any relevant arrangements. Following the submission of tags, the EQA review can take place. For B1 qualifications, these reviews will need to be completed by the 30th of July. For B2 qualifications, it would be the 31st of August. As part of this review, the EQA will refer to your tag strategy that was submitted and consider the risk profile of your center. The risk profile is based around aspects like previous EQA review performance scores, any malpractice or maladministration instances, any historic direct claim status, DCS, etc. The EQA will then request a sample of learner work, and this includes both internal and external assessments. If the EQA finds the evidence supplied is insufficient or that the center tag strategy hasn't been followed, they may request additional evidence or widen their sample to include additional learners. The EQA will be discussing and asking centers about their tag process and adaptations during the review. The EQA will also want to see internal quality assurance records. This also applies for any tags for external assessments. Following a successful EQA review, NCFE will be able to approve the submitted tags and bank those grades, which is in line with our usual EQA process. There will be additional checks of the tags against past performance records. If the tag grades appear to be significantly different to past performance, then centres may be asked to provide an explanation for this variation. For centres with direct claim status, DCS, and the applicable qualifications, there will be a slightly different process. If you've already received your annual review, then the EQA will evaluate the submitted tag results for consistency, such as checking historical data, are the results in line with previous years, etc. For B1 qualifications, tag results will be held by NCFE until results release day. For B2 qualifications, once the tag results are approved, results will be released in the usual timeframe. For centres that have existing DCS and are due an EQA review in order to maintain DCS this year, the above processes and timescales will still apply. The submission and review of your centre tag strategy will be completed as a desktop review. The EQA will also request a sample of tag learner evidence, which will be included as part of the sampling plan you receive. This will include both internal units and external components where applicable. Centres, in line with current Ofqual guidance, are required to keep all evidence used in the determination of a tag until 6 months after either the results issue date or the conclusion of any appeals in relation to that result, whichever is later. The learners certificated via DCS should have evidence retained for sampling at the next EQA review. Where a centre has determined a tag for a learner on a qualification with DCS, the same guidance stands. The evidence should be retained. Learners that are not certifying this summer, such as mid-flight learners, like Year 10 learners, for example, may have been awarded a tag for a unit or part of a qualification. This evidence should be retained to support EQA activity during the 2021-22 session. For learners who are deferring due to not being able to complete part of their qualification, learner evidence will need to be retained for any tag submitted in this session, as it will support the final EQA review of assessment. The results for tags will be released to centres and learners as follows. For Level 3 B1 qualifications, results will be released to centres no later than the 9th of August, and results released to learners on the 10th of August. For entry level to Level 2 B1 qualifications, centres will have the results released no later than the 11th of August, and the results to learners on the 12th of August. If your centre has completed the B1 and B2 qualifications as standard or business as usual, in other words, without any tags, then the results will be released on a rolling basis following the EQA review process and approval. Centres will still need to make certificate claims, and once you've had a successful EQA review, these will be released once the EQA has signed off the claims. If your centre has DCS, then they'll be released on demand once the certificate claims have been submitted. If your centre wishes to launch any appeals, the deadlines for these are the 17th of September for B1 qualification tags, For B2 qualification tags, it's 30 calendar days following results release. Now, if your centre has completed qualifications in the normal way without any tags, then you'll still need to make certificate claims, and for category A qualifications, there is no cut-off date for making claims. However, any centres wishing to receive results and certificates on or around results release days must have final certificate claims approved by their EQA on or before the 30th of July. If DCS is held for the qualification, then final claims need to be submitted by 3 p.m. on the 30th of July. For B1 qualifications, there's also no cut-off date for certificate claims. However, if you want results and certificates on or around results release days, then you must submit unit grades via the portal using the standard process no later than the 27th of July. Your EQA review will follow, and once your EQA has completed the review and banked these unit grades, you can then submit your final certification claims. Certification claims must be made by 3 p.m. on the 30th of July. Please do not submit any certification claims until the EQA has concluded their review. If DCS is held for the qualification, then final claims need to be submitted by 3 p.m. on the 30th of July. Finally, for category B2 qualifications, there is no cut-off date for certification claims due to the roll-on, roll-off nature. I would like to thank you for attending this webinar, and I hope you found it useful. If you haven't done so already, you may want to subscribe to our weekly newsletter, which will contain COVID and tag updates. You can subscribe to this by contacting our customer support team. We do have our dedicated COVID hub, which contains information and supporting documents to assist your centre. And our customer support team, should you have any questions, can be contacted via the methods on screen, either by phone, via email, or via web chat on our website. Your account manager and EQA will also be a valuable source of information and guidance. Thanks again for attending, and from everyone here at NCFE, we'd like to wish you a very safe and successful year.